asking me, do we got vampires here? Bitch, we got mosquitoes here that'll pull your motherfucking sock down and bite your ankles. Them hoes will pull your lace front back and bite the glue off your head. Yeah, we vampires, bitch, mosquitoes.
That settles it. One of the trash cans is still a mimic, but now I gotta figure out what I'm doing with all this trash, because there's a lot of it. Yeah, at first I tried the endless hallway. I figured, it's an endless hallway. You know, it's good for exercising. It'll be good for trash. Turns out it's actually just a loop. The hell? Figured that out yesterday. I mean, me personally, I don't feel like 30's too old to go back to college. I just tried talking to him. I mean, you never know, right? You even listening? Yeah, I don't know if I told you, but I actually started a Kickstarter. Yeah, it's only got a couple days left if you want any perks. You're so funny, man, the way you're blue and the way you're a trash can. We've grown so close. Can I put my trash in your body, please? What the hell? Nah, it's a real trash can. That sucks. Wait a minute. Come on, man. You hear how nice I was to your buddy? This sucks. I didn't think it would come to this, but here we are. Desperate times call for desperate measures. That's right. It's exactly what you think. I'm calling a trash company. Oh yeah, I'm calling your mom. Oh, hello? Is this Mrs. Waste Management? That's right, buddy. Yeah, I gotta tell you something. Yeah, I totally agree with you. He should absolutely get a move on. Get out of here, right? She hung up like 2 minutes ago. Yeah, no, I'll let him know what you said. I'll let him know.
And meet them people, the vampire people downtown. Yeah, because they got vampires downtown.
Let me tell you something, baby. I'm the one that go to New Orleans looking for them. So, if you could direct me, I'm listening. Listen, hear me out. I could understand why the people go missing, because if you go looking for something and you gotta hide, like with vampirism, you can't live a normal life after that. You gotta change. You gotta switch sceneries. You gotta fake your death. Duh. And me, I just feel like this is my moment to shine. I just feel like this is the moment that I feel like I've been waiting for. I didn't get my vampire love story. So therefore, just to point me in the direction, I don't think they're in the bayou. I'm sure they're in the quarter. What was Marcel Gerard at when they killed the witch in the middle of the street? I think they'd be over there. That's why I need to go look at, you know what? Let me look up my flight right now, because
if you're in New Orleans, you have to go to the Vampire Cafe, and I'm also going to teach you how to get into their speakeasy. First, we started off here. I got a blood blag, and it was so delicious. And then the bartender directed us over to the apothecary, where we got one more drink, and then they gave us the card to get into the speakeasy. You're going to walk over to Fritzl's, go through the back door where it looks like the exit, see the security guard, and tell them that you have the card. They have endless absinthe cocktails, and the vibe is so spooky. It's almost like an old house. You guys have to go if you're in New Orleans. Also, just be aware, if you're allergic to cats, there are cats everywhere.
What's going on, TikTok fam? I've been waiting to tell this story, my experience with a vampire. And let me tell you, they ain't here just to suck your blood. So it was probably 94, 95, I would say, 1994, 1995. And me and a buddy of mine from the Baton Rouge area, and we were staying or living on the campus in Hammond at Southeastern. And I was from the Kentwood area, and we met through playing baseball. So we were rooming together at Southeastern, and we decided to go down to Metairie to go to a nightclub called Kenny's Key West. And it was, your typical dance club, playing techno music, rave type stuff. And we there, and my buddy met this chick, and they had a group who had friends of like 8 of them. And I remember this very particular thing. There was 5 girls and 3 guys, and the guys stood out the most to me. They were very pale, very tall, and just weren't very talkative amongst the group. They were more like they were there guarding the girls. It was weird. But my buddy talked to this chick, and we danced and had a good time, and hung out with them until about 4 or 5 that morning. Well, they wanted to go to the cemetery and go pop some nitrous. And we already ate some chocolate chips at this point, so we were pretty fucked up. So we're like, okay, cool, let's go. So we go to one of the cemeteries down there. I can't remember the name of it. I don't know the name of it. But I remember it being a big-ass cemetery. And and all the graves were above ground. And we went to this like area to where they had these tombs you could walk in, I guess. And they were a burial site, but you could walk in there, and it was like a little building. And like all 8, 9 of us were in there, and we had these balloons, and we did our thing. Well, while we were in there, we all sat down and we were just talking. And one of the guys brought up the conversation that they were vampires. And, I was 18 years old at the time. It's like 94, 95. And I'm like, this bullshit. I just thought it was all bullshit. And then they talked about it, laughed about it, and I remember one of the comments being, "We're not here to suck your blood, but we're here to steal your energy." So we had this balloon, and we were passing it around, and it came my turn, and one of the girls came and sat next to me. And y'all, the moment she put her hand on my shoulder, I immediately felt this rush inside me, like coming out of me. And it was like my energy, I don't even know how to put it in words. And then I remember kind of like blacking out, and time kind of went by, I guess, or lost time, whatever you want to call it. Next thing I know, I come to, I'm getting out with my buddy at a Dunkin' Donuts in Metairie to go get something to eat. That's my encounter with a vampire in New Orleans. Trust me, there's a big tribe of them, and they're real. They not only do they just suck your blood, they'll steal your fucking energy.
I'm a vampire. You actually wouldn't be the first person I tried to tell.
Yo, bro. Yo. They want to know if you a vampire too.
No, stop telling them about us. Stop this shit now. Stop all this fuck shit. You heard what the council said. The only reason you still here is because of Mom, bro.
Oh, relax.
All
right, relax,
Stop this shit now. You sitting there laughing like it's a fucking joke, bro. They already told you what they gonna do if you keep this shit up. Bro, I love you, but if they come after you, I'm not fucking standing in the way because you're doing this shit to your fucking self.
So you're not gonna avenge me if they come after me?
I look like Tony Stark, you stupid bitch. I get what you was doing in the beginning. I get it. But that shit is over, bro. It didn't work. Also, you dummy, think about Mom. Mom ain't like me. If they come after you, you gonna start a war because Mom is gonna defend you. Now you gonna pull Mom into a war?
We ain't vampires. I'm just joking.
You being selfish. You're not thinking about nobody but yourself. What the fuck are you doing?
Parts 1 and 2 of this deep dive are on my YouTube channel now. We're talking new clips, new proof, and honestly just keeps getting weirder.
There are 2 ways to become a vampire, hypothetically. 5 things that are harmful to vampires. How did you become a vampire? Vampires don't exist. Vampires don't exist. Unless you're asking me hypothetically. And then, if that's the case, hypothetically, here are a few things you should know about vampires. Hypothetically. There are 2 ways to become a vampire. Hypothetically. The first way is if you're bitten. But it's not just you being bitten. Vampire saliva has to course through your veins. That's where the biting comes in. And then after that, you have to ingest vampire blood. Hypothetically. Then the process of changing takes 2-3 days, give or take. That change time varies from person to person, so it doesn't even really matter. The most important thing is that you make it through the first day. 90% of people don't make it through the first day. And the other way is if you're born into it, pure blood. I've never been bitten by a vampire before. What's another question I get? Can I change you? Fuck no. Trying to get the feds over here? You'll die. Hypothetically. Hypothetically. I saw a movie one time about vampires, and apparently they couldn't see themselves in a mirror. I don't know, for some reason, that seemed very unrealistic to me. In another movie, a vampire was sprayed with garlic and it killed him. That too right there seems unrealistic to me, for whatever reason. You know what I like eating a lot? Pasta. I love pasta. with extra garlic. I love garlic. Do vampires age? That's another question I hear a lot. Yes, everything that is alive ages. I just age differently than vampires. Vampires age differently. Like if hypothetically, this is a hypothetical conversation. I saw this movie. It was on Netflix one time. Conda, I believe it was called. They were eating entire hearts, and the process of eating an entire heart would make them grow younger. That was pretty realistic to me, for whatever reason. That is a real thing in my head. In regards to this hypothetical that we're talking about, that was real. Do vampires live forever? Vampires are not immortal. Like, you can't just sit around and live forever. Like, you could kill a vampire, hypothetically. Hypothetically, you could kill a vampire. There's a few ways to kill a vampire, hypothetically. One way is, like literally. Another way is a wooden stake, but not like, you can't just stab them anywhere. It would literally have to pierce their heart, and you gotta really get it in there, because I've seen some survive that shit. Hypothetically. This is all hypothetical. Can vampires fly? No. Do I need to grab a bird and show you the mechanics of flying? Silly goose. Hypothetically. If you're a vampire and you've been living for a very long time, where's the wealth? This is not every vampire, but a lot of vampires out there know how to live within their means. We know that vampires know that a lot more than humans. I think it's because humans have a limited amount of time on this earth, so they try to gain as much as they can, no matter how it affects their kind. Like, humans would literally poison other humans to get a little money. Vampires know that materialistic things don't matter. They don't matter. You buy them and then you forget about them in a year. We're happy with this gift called the world. Now, don't get it twisted. Like, there's a lot of rich vampires in like Switzerland, Romania, but I wouldn't even call them greedy rich. Like, they're good businessmen. Greed is just not a vampire thing. It's like that's a y'all thing. That's a human thing. That's like a me and you, because I'm included in the group that you're in, because I'm human too. Can vampires hypnotize people? So it's technically not hypnotizing. It's more of it's like, okay, you know how alcohol gives you liquid courage, right? The liquid that's now in your system is giving you the courage to do something other than what you would normally do, right? Okay. From my vampires' palms are able to secrete a sweat-like liquid that if they touch you with it and that gets into your system, it kind of gives you that feeling of being relaxed, calm, as if you just took a couple shots. And then after that, it's just a gift of gab. Hypothetically.
One of my favorite stories is about Jacques de Saint-Germain, or in American pronunciation, Jacques of Saint-Germain. A French guy, big socialite, who was caught chasing a young lady on the streets of New Orleans in front of his house and doing vampire things to her in front of his house with many witnesses. Fast forward 100 years later, when I moved to New Orleans 12 years ago, I didn't know anything about any of these legends here. I sat down in a coffee house. It was my very first day here in New Orleans, and within 5 minutes of me sitting down on that couch, here comes this vampiric looking guy into the coffee house, comes straight to me, points out his finger in my face and says, you're from Transylvania. So I said, yes, I am. Kind of intimidated. How would he know that I was from Transylvania? Who are you, sir? What do you want from me? And he said, well, I will make you one of us. You will see. Hold on a second. Who are you? And he said, my name is Giacomo, and that is all you need to know for now, and good night. And he left. Could it be that the vampire somehow had a sixth sense to basically smell me that I was from Transylvania? And did he really threaten me that he wants to make me part of his tribe? I don't know.
Book your tour at hauntedhistorytours.com.
I just moved to a new building a couple of months ago, and it's an older building where you know there's people that have lived there for like 40-50 years, and I'm like 95% sure my next door neighbor is a vampire. For one thing, he's at least 190 years old. Like, some people are old enough you could tell they fought in Vietnam. This guy's old enough you could tell he fought in the War of 1812. And the only time I've ever seen him is when he pops his head out to check if anyone's actually waiting for the elevator, and if they are, he just slinks back into the darkness of his apartment. The only time I've ever heard him make noise, like on the other side of my wall, was when I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think he was actually scared and having a meltdown. He could just be a very shy old man, or living in New York City for over 75 years just turns you into Nosferatu.
There are a lot of reasons why New Orleans is one of the most haunted cities in America. One of the biggest reasons why is simply the water, particularly the Mississippi River. Water is a natural conductor for paranormal energy. Being that New Orleans is located at the end of the river where it meets the Gulf, all of this paranormal energy from the continent flows down and winds up here. But that's not the only thing that has come down the river and wound up here. By the mid-1800s, word had begun to spread around the country in the supernatural communities about all the opportunity that lie in New Orleans. 1852 saw the arrival of one of the most prominent ghost families out of Tennessee, Cain and Lilith Demonson and their children. Soon after, other prominent ghost families from the north, like the Beelzebubs, the prominent Spectre family from New York, and the Swayzes from Chicago followed suit. Over the next century, hauntings would become big business in New Orleans, and today is one of our biggest tourist attractions. Many of these ghosts have gotten very, very rich over the years.
So how you're a vampire and you're 210 years old.
Correct.
How do you live so long? Do you drink blood?
We do not condone drinking blood. That is my default answer.
If a host at an Airbnb in New Orleans gives you a warning, listen to it. We'll call her Kate. Kate was staying in town for a business meeting, so she said she was staying at this cute little Airbnb down around the French Quarter. She was alone. She didn't want to stay in hotels. She said she always kind of got the ick in hotels. She felt like they were more dangerous. So she goes to the Airbnb. She had the code to get in, and the host had left her a handwritten note that said, do whatever, just clean up after yourself. But then it also said, do not open the door after midnight for anyone. She thought that they were just trying to be funny because, of the nightlife that's down there. So she kind of didn't pay any mind to it. The first night, everything was fine. The second night at 12:45, she hears a knock at the door, just 3 little knocks. She said they weren't frantic or loud or anything. They were just polite, soft knocks. She goes through the door, she looks through the peephole, and she sees this gorgeous guy standing there. She said he was so good looking. He was pale skin, he had dark hair, the most gorgeous eyes she'd ever seen. He says, "Hey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I left my phone in here the other day." She was kind of weirded out a little bit because she knew she hadn't had any guests, but she thought maybe it was whoever stayed there before her, but she hadn't seen or heard a phone. He tells her, "Hey, I can tell you where it's at. You can go get it for me. You don't even have to let me in." Then he mumbled something that she didn't really hear. She couldn't hear through the door. So without thinking, she just cracked the door a little bit. That's when he winked and said, "Thank you. That's all I needed." Then left. Now, personally, this is where Kate loses me because she said it didn't really scare her because he was so good looking. Girl, so was Ted Bundy. She goes back to watching TV, doing whatever she was doing. The next morning, after she gets out of the shower, before she has to go to one of her meetings, the mirror fogs up and someone had wrote, with their finger, "invited," Just one word, invite it in the mirror. Girl, she's still dumb and thinking that it's something that the Airbnb does for the area or whatever. So she calls the host, and the host said, did you open the...
Well, I see vampires in New Orleans is trending. And as someone who lived in New Orleans for 12 years and worked on Bourbon Street almost every night of those 12 years, and was around a lot of darkness there, I can tell you, I met a lot of something. Vampires in particular. Anybody who told me they were a vampire? No. Did I meet the devil? Well, if you were around the early days of the House of Blues back in the day, you might know what I'm talking about. And I also met Michael the Archangel. Now, that's a story I've done before. If you want to hear it, let me know. But would it shock me if there was major supernatural and strange things going on? Have you ever been to New Orleans? No, not shocking. But I guess I never got the chance to meet someone who claimed to be a vampire. There's a lot of vampire fans there because of Anne Rice, and a lot of people who dress like vampires to look cool and to feel like they were, mysterious. But let me tell you something. The real people walking around New Orleans, they're a hell of a lot scarier.
You might not believe it, but this might be an actual vampire in New Orleans. I'm sure we've all heard about the story of the Carter brothers that in the 1930s claimed to be vampires and eventually get executed. However, the story with New Orleans and vampires go a lot deeper and dark. Let me show you. In scripture, we find that the life of the flesh is in the blood, specifically in the Old Testament. And unfortunately, a lot of the occultists know about this power and this thing, where the blood is basically the bridge between the spiritual and the material world. And this woman here is Helena Blavatsky, one of the most famous Satanists in the 1900s. And she, in fact, has some relationship with New Orleans, and let me show you. You see the symbol here? This is a symbol of theosophy, and this is straight up occultism, and they work a lot with blood, which, I guess it makes sense if it's Helena Blavatsky starting this out. And I'm gonna be showing you who is also a theosopher. This guy right here is Jack St. Germain, the notorious guy from New Orleans who claimed to be a vampire. Now, the story with this guy goes is his actual name is Count St. Germain, but he tried to conceal and hide his real name because he, in fact, was alive in the 1700s, where he actually claimed to be himself a Jesuit, and that in and of itself is a complete rabbit hole that I'm going to be getting into another video. Don't forget to like and follow me for more stories like this.
Did this CCTV footage capture a real-life vampire?
I gotta get somebody's phone to tell him. Of course. I know, he's gonna freak out. Wait, I don't know. Okay, so I don't understand. You're filming the guy that stole it? No, look, just keep watching. It's crazy. Wait, I know. What? I know. Like, how is that? I don't know. What the... Wait, I know. What? I know. Like, how is that? I don't know. What the...
This is the true story of how I ended up in VIP with a vampire. For those of you that don't know, I'm a dancer in New Orleans, and trigger warning, this is the craziest shit I've ever said. Definitely the craziest shit I've ever seen. So last Friday, I walk up to a man at the bar, and he's very clean cut. We begin to talk. He tells me that he's a doctor, very charming, the type of man you would want to take to the VIP. So we ended up going to the VIP, and he wants to show me a picture of his girlfriend, which isn't unusual because some guys get off on other girls finding their woman attractive. So I'm here for that. Let me see her. I'm gonna hype her up. But he scrolled on the wrong picture, and he panics and he tries to scroll, but he knows that I had already seen it. And he asked me, "What do you think?" And we're just both in the VIP room staring at each other like, I say, "What is that?" Because all I see is a girl on a bed covered in blood with a man with the home IV drip. My first impression is I'm in the room with a serial killer. He then proceeds to tell me that he likes to draw his girlfriends and rub it all over his body during, and then afterwards, the only way he can feel close to a woman is if he drinks her. So I say, would you like to leave me a tip? Because that was weird as shit. Just kidding, I didn't say that, but he did give me a $300 tip and said he was coming back.
Oh, you're talking about the originals, baby. You're talking about the first vampires in New Orleans. That's the Michelson family. And his story go back at least 1,000 years, all the way to about the 10th century, baby. Now, the existence in the vampire world wasn't really known to everybody. It was only known to about a few people. And when you're dealing with all modern day vampires of today, you gotta link them back to the original family, which would be the Michelson family. Now, I'm gonna talk to you about a little bit of their creation and how they even came to be, baby, and the consequences that even went down. Now, back in the 10th century, the father Michael was a Viking warrior, and then he had his wife Esther, who was a witch, and his sons Finn, Elijah, Claude, Cole, and you got Henry. And then you got the daughters, Rebecca and Freya. Love me some Rebecca, baby. Now, Freya was given away at the age of 5 by Esther, basically for a payment plan so she could conceive children. And she sold her to a witch named Dahlia. Now, Michael think that his daughter died of something else and was devastated from the tragedy, you heard me? Now, one night, the two brothers, Henrik and Klaus, they sneak out to go watch one of the transformations with the werewolves. And because of that, the werewolves was alerted, and then they found them, and they chased them down, and then they killed Henrik. Now, once again, Michelson go crazy because this is another child that he done lost, you heard me? Now, Michelson so distraught, he want to find a way that they can all stop dying. So he forced Esther to come up with a plan so they could be immortal. Now, Esther go find this witch named Ketia, this black witch, and she comes up with this spell of immortality. And with the spell, they will receive superhuman speed, agility, super strength, rapid healing, but most importantly, immortality. Now, the spell wasn't actually the same spell that Ketia used 1,000 years previously, because Esther infused dark magic inside of the ritual. So she modernized it. Now, she calls upon the son of her new life. And she also called upon the white oak tree, which is known for Earth's eternal objects, or the tree of life. Now, after retrieving the blood from the doppelganger Tatia is the descendant of the first immortal woman. So they needed her blood for the ritual. And with that, Esther got every piece that she needed in order to complete the conjuring. So Michael, Finn, Elijah, Klaus, and Rebecca, they all began to drink from the wine cup with the blood in it. And this transition will help them gain a new life from the mystic symbols. So basically, they had to kill a human life in order to be revived to become vampires. So Michael grabs a sword and takes it and drives it through all his children's chests and kills them. And then after they was revived and already was woke, they took a little innocent girl from the village and they drank her blood to complete the transition. So now they so strong, they could run faster than any fast animal on the planet. On top of that, they got new enhanced agility, which allows them to slow everything down. Basically, they like living in flow state. And with this, they could see natural things coming at them faster than if they received any life-threatening wounds, heal in seconds. And they also can compel humans to carry out anything that they want them to do. Mind control too, baby. And with this, there's no mortal weapon that could have killed them. And this is how they became the first vampires, the originals, baby. Now, they say this was the ultimate violation of nature because they used dark magic to conjure up to become these type of creatures. And because of that, there's consequences with the betrayal of Earth's essence. Told y'all, baby. And with that, with the sun being able to give them light, now it became their weakness. And now they're not able to walk outside with the sun out, baby. But then they created these day rings so they was able to walk around.
Do you know why New Orleans is known for vampires? A lot of folks know New Orleans for vampires because of Anne Rice's novel series. But there's more to it than that. Have you ever heard the story of the Casket Girls of New Orleans? The Casket Girls were some girls. They were ladies from elsewhere. The Casket Girls were a group of women who came over to New Orleans in 1728. And they did so at behest of the King of France to help boost the population of New Orleans. Now, New Orleans at that time was a budding colony, and there were lots of men there, but there weren't many women of good quality and high standards. So the Casket Girls were brought over on boat, and when they arrived, they filed out carrying caskets. Now, we think of this word, casket, but really it is the French word casket. Editor Avery here, I had to look it all up again just to make sure I got the words right. Casket means cap. It means cap because they wore caps, they covered their heads. And that's basically just luggage. So you could call them the luggage girls, but doesn't have quite the same spooky ring. The Casket girls come over, and the first thing that the gentlemen of New Orleans say is, my gosh, they're so pale. And they were almost ashen, very pale of skin, had very bright red, very pink lips. That was very strange, but they were women, and you know, they hadn't been around many women in a while, so like, why judge? The Casket girls were then brought into the Ursuline convent in New Orleans, and they were to stay there until their marriages could be arranged with several gentlemen in the area. One of the things of note about these women as they were in New Orleans at the convent was they rapidly blistered and burned in the sunshine. So much so that they stayed under the shade trees or kept all of their bodies covered just because the heat of subtropical New Orleans was just too much for their delicate pale skin. As somebody who is delicate and pale, I can attest that you burn rapidly here, but that's besides the point. As these women were arranged into different marriages and sent off, usually the gentleman would find oddities with each of these Casket women. And as they were around them more and more, they found that they were morose and unhappy. They just weren't quite right. Rumors started to spread that most of these women were off, odd, weird, something was wrong, and the men started speaking about it. Now, some of the women were turned out to fend for themselves, and this resulted in a really hard life for them. Some of them went back to the Ursuline convent. They didn't know really what to do with them. When the French king heard about how some of these women were being mistreated by their husbands, or turned out, as it were, he said enough was enough. He wanted them to come back home. So the Ursuline nuns decided to gather up the ladies, and their caskets, their luggage, had been stored at the top floor of the convent, on the 3rd floor. The windows and doors of this area of the convent had always been closed and shut. All of their belongings were inside of this basically attic-like space and sealed away until such time as they were ready to go back to France. When the ship had arrived to take the Casket girls and their belongings home, the Ursuline nuns went up to the 3rd floor to collect all of their luggage and bibs and bobs to send home, and everything was gone. The caskets were empty. All of their belongings had vanished, and so did some of the Casket girls too. And that's when the convent nuns decided maybe there was some merit to the rumor that some of these Casket girls were vampires. And the rumor that these ladies were vampires spread throughout the French Quarter and New Orleans and right into history. Here's another little tidbit about the Casket girls, though. Back in 1978, there were 2 paranormal investigators that had been previously kicked off of the convent property. And the Ursuline convent nuns were like, nah, get your happy ass over there and stay over there. Not here. None of this shit. So the 2 paranormal investigators camped on the sidewalk in front of the convent to try and track down if the Casket girls were vampires and did they come in and out of the 3rd floor. They had their cameras targeted up there, and they, went about their evening. And as anybody knows, paranormal investigating is real boring until it's not. So these gents were sitting there having themselves a good chit chat and talking when the 3rd floor shutters on the windows began to open and close. Now, these 3rd floor shutters are interesting because they were nailed shut with blessed nails directly from the Pope himself. There shouldn't have been any spooky movement, and yet there was. The 2 gentlemen didn't notice until after the fact, which made it all the more delicious because they probably missed the very vampires who were opening and closing those doors, entering and exiting the 3rd floor of the Ursuline convent in the French Quarter. The next morning, the bodies of the investigators were found. They didn't survive whatever was happening behind them on the 3rd floor of the Ursuline convent, but their video recordings did. And those investigators' bodies were torn open like a delicious chicken, uncooked, on the sidewalk. And there was no blood. So was it vampires? But there's more to this story, because there always is. Here's the other side of it. Ready? So the Casket girls are real. That happened. The King of France sent some women over to help bolster the community here. Make a family. And they did. What really happened was the ladies came off the boat and they did find marriages, and they were not too happy with the local gents because they would go out into the woods, they would go do work, and they wouldn't do things like homesteading, so helping maintain a garden or even like build a house and put a roof over it. These ladies ended up doing something called the Petticoat Rebellion in order to say, I ain't gonna put out if you don't put in towards the home. A lot of folks that can trace their lineage back to Casket girls are actually quite proud of it, because not only were they upstanding ladies, good and wholesome, sent by the King of France, but they were badasses who were like, you do what you gotta do, sir, and then we can do what we gotta do. Got it? So that's the story of the Casket girls. Fascinating, isn't it?
I may be unpleasant looking on the outside, but you're ugly on the inside.